guys, James Wilson Taylor here for Rock Sound. It's another of our video calls. We're catching up with everybody while we're all stuck at home in the minute. And I'm delighted to say from the Maine, we have John and Pat on the line. How are you guys?
Woo-hoo!
Doing good, doing good.
Doing
How
good.
are you?
Not too bad, man. Surviving. Admiring the lovely flowers behind you there, John. Very glamorous background. You've clearly mastered the art of Zoom in this time, really.
Absolutely, yeah. And I took it on my iPhone.
Oh, there you go. Oh, so you're providing your own backgrounds. I like that. Not sticking with the standards.
If there's one thing that this quarantine has taught me, it's how to use technology. So,
well, there we go. Always
well,
useful.
I wouldn't go that far. I just figured out how to do that because I was jealous, like you were saying, of everybody else's backgrounds. We've done a couple of these Zoom calls, and for a while, I was the only one without a background. So, figured it out.
Yeah, figured it out in the end. Got there in the end. Well, yeah, let's start there then, guys, because it's how I've started all of these is just to say, obviously, I hope you guys have been staying as safe and as well as you can in this very strange time we're in. But generally, how has your lockdown been going? Pat, let's start with you. What have you been up to these last few months of kind of being at home?
Yeah, it's been good. I mean, trying to find the positive in it, and this is certainly the longest that I've ever been home. And I just had a baby, so it's kind of ended up working out as best as possible. The fact that I haven't had to miss these important moments so far, since we would have been on sad summer right now, and we would have been gone. So yeah, just trying to stay safe, keep the family healthy, and then we're doing as much as we can as a band. So just yeah.
No, it's been good. You're seeing you guys been very, very active online and stuff, which has all been good to see. John, has that been the same experience for you? How are you finding this downtime, man?
I didn't have a baby, so Pat beat me there. But
so it's a bit quieter.
Well, not necessarily. I just got a puppy. So,
okay.
Yeah. Definitely. I don't know. I can't relate with Pat as far as what stuff the baby Charlotte is putting in her mouth, but our dog is eating fucking everything. So it's been, to be honest, it's certainly been tough. I'd be lying if I said that, like, mentally I was amazing. But like Pat said, I think just perspective is really great right now as far as appreciating what we have. And we got together yesterday as a band for the first time in a while, and just to be kind of around those guys and to be in the same room and practicing and playing music was like really refreshing. And we got to talking about just the fact that we're, hopefully going to survive this as a band. And just the fact that we can still get together and just kind of just be together and play music again was a really nice reminder of how fortunate we are. So.
Yeah, I can imagine. It's interesting. I've spoken to a lot of bands recently. They've had this time to kind of take stock and look back at what they've achieved, and be very appreciative for having that audience there and everything. And with you guys in particular, it's really nice to talk to you at this moment where you are reflecting on You Are Okay as an era, because what an era it's been for you guys. What an achievement. You know how much we love that album, and what an incredible record and standout record, I would say, in your career it's been. But everything about the era as well, all the creative aspects to it, all links together so incredibly nicely. So let's start with this live stream that, at the time of recording is only a few days away. It looks like you're really wanting to use this as like a capper on this era, right? Talk to me about putting it together and what you want to achieve from this kind of final show.
Yeah, I think it's something that we always enjoy the idea of being able to kind of to mark a moment in time by a certain an album. And I kind of think of it, when you're younger and you're in high school, it's like you can really think about what happened in your life, for us during freshman year of high school or sophomore year or junior year, and you really have these milestone moments. And then as you get older, you're your life can just kind of become just a blur. So I think for us having these, this is the lovely little lonely era, and then the You Are Okay era. It's like it's a great way for our fans and for us to be able to kind of to think about, like, oh, these are all the things that I did during this time, even if it's unrelated to the band. I fell in love during the lovely little lonely era. I did this during that. So I think that's why we kind of have the obsession with with beginning a chapter and really putting a hard end to it. So
yeah, I mean, it's always a good thing, I think, especially when you've come to the end of a campaign this big for you guys, to be able to look back and say, hey, here is what we have achieved and here's what we want to take forward with us. It's got to be a real luxury and a real nice thing. John, are there any particular standout moments, whether it's touring or just in the making album or in general? What are the kind of things you guys are proudest of this era as a whole?
I mean, it's really no bias, and not because we're just talking to you, but when we played that first show in London, Pat, the record wasn't out yet, was it?
I think it was release week. I think
the record had just came out, and then we did the show at the Forum.
Yeah,
which was like by far our biggest headline show over there yet.
Yeah, and I think that was, the record had either just been out a day or two or whatever. But during Numb Without You, it was just like sort of one of those out of body experiences where it's just like you can't appreciate it in the moment fully because you're in it. And it's not, you don't really have the ability to comprehend what's going on. But I think looking back, that was just so incredible. And it just felt like, just like this cycle is going to be mad. And I think, doing some of those other things that we've done over in England by playing, Reading and Leeds, I think that something like that is like, as a band that has been striving to get opportunities like that for almost 15 years, and to finally have them become reality is just like, it's I'm going to relate it to training this puppy. It's like, it can feel like it's going nowhere, or feel like it's steadily just kind of going along. And then when the dog realizes what no means, or, or sits for the food, and you can see it actually happen in real time, I think that's when you're like, okay, that's why I'm still doing this, And I think just going with the puppy analogy, that's, those are definitely standouts. We had great shows, and I just think that for people to still care as passionately as they did day one when we started as a band now, it's just pretty unreal.
Well, what I loved about the live shows in particular around this campaign is the fact that you never stopped adapting and growing the era within the shows. Do you know what I mean? Like, you look at, particularly now you've mentioned Catnish Town Forum, you look at that first show in release week, and then you look at when you were back there earlier this year. It's two completely different shows. And that might be an obvious thing to say, but it's quite rare when someone's in the middle of an album campaign to want to keep developing and adding new things into the live show like that. Talk to me about developing the Mirror Tour in particular, because it seemed like it took things to this whole other level live.
That was just something where, I think we finally we're able to kind of put all these ideas that we've always had into place, and that is kind of because the shows got bigger, so it's like now we're able to do what we've attempted to do, and I think it was a matter of trying to give an entire experience from when you walk into the venue till the end of the show, there was lots of energy and time put into every detail of making every song go into the next, and the visuals and the feeling. And I think that this album just fit perfectly with that moment, with how the album begins and then how it ends, and how those, it was basically the thing in the mirror was, how do you bridge the first song on the record to the last song on the record in a visual way while intermixing other songs from our catalog. And really, Slip the Noose and Flowers on the Grave were the benchmarks of that whole idea.
Yeah.
Also, keeping in mind that it's completely DIY and our budget isn't very big. So, like, all these ideas that we have, just if we ever make $1 billion from the lottery, just look the fuck out, because it's going to be crazy.
all systems go at that point. Gonna really kick off. But it's interesting you say that, because the DIY approach, it's something that it's been present across this entire campaign, this entire album. You guys were doing whatever you wanted to do, and really, like you say, pushing those creative ideas as far as they will go. We've seen that with all the 8123 stuff throughout this time. I wonder, was it daunting at all? Did you have, like, when you started out on the You Are Okay campaign, did you have a list of goals you wanted to achieve, things you wanted to tick off, whether it's visual or otherwise?
I think from each record, you learn, especially releasing on your own, you learn what worked for you, what felt like, was well worth the energy, and then what you just spent too much time on that just didn't pan out. I think we initially knew that we wanted, just straight out of the gate, we felt like Lovely Little Lonely at the end of that sort of chapter, it started to feel really cohesive. Whereas when that record sort of was released, the visuals didn't necessarily match exactly what the album felt like to us. And then it sort of took a couple months for us to catch up. And I think out of the gate for You Are Okay, we wanted it to just feel, more or less kind of how we released it. And then obviously you figure out along the way, like, oh, this feels a little bit more natural, or this feels, this feels a little more just not right. So then you just kind of along the way transition. I think with what Pat was saying about the Mirror Tour specifically, we had put sort of Lovely Little Lonely to rest by being over the top, by being an extra band, and creating a funeral for it in Baltimore. And I think that was sort of a catalyst that helped shape what the Mirror Tour was like, because we felt like you have this really interactive sort of experience from when you walk into the door to when you leave the show. And so I think, just again, we wanted visuals to be what we wanted, and we wanted everything to feel cohesive. So that was really, at least for me, a big sticking point on You Are Okay.
Yeah, I think it's interesting you use the word cohesive there, because even going back and listening to the record now after all this time, it is cohesive. And as much as I've admired you guys' work, we've talked about this in the past, I'm a fan of you guys' work, but this record in particular, I feel is like your most cohesive. I think it really works, like you say, top to bottom in that way. So I wonder, going right back, when you were in the studio for this, when you were first starting to write all this stuff, what were those kind of aha moments? Were there any particular songs that really kind of made you think, oh, this is going to work, this is how it's all going to flow together? What were those writing moments like?
I think, we did a lot talk about the record, and probably to a fault. We did a lot of just sort of mashing our against the wall in the studio where Pat is right now, and just a lot of like, well, how do we make it feel? And we want to make it feel larger than life, or we want to make it feel X, Y, and Z. And I felt like there was too much talking, and that kind of rests on my shoulders, because I feel like too much talking can help lead to a lack of vision. And I feel like it really started to come together when we were actually in the studio, and Andrew Jocelyn, who did all the arranging for the strings, sort of like when we talking, that was one of the silver linings that came from all those conversations, was the idea that we wanted some new instrumentation to sort of help, mesh the world together. And I felt like, in the past, it's been like the Rhodes, it's been acoustic guitars, especially early on in our band's career. So we were trying to figure out some new element of sort of stringing together songs, and it ended up being the strings, no pun intended. But Andrew Jocelyn is from Seattle. He did all the arranging and all the recording just himself. And, I did all the programming and sent it his way. And to hear those strings come to life, especially on Flowers on the Grave, it's the last track. It's a lengthy, it's like the Ben-Hur of our band's existence. It's like what Ben-Hur is to cinematography, 4 hours of just like, geez. It's a 10-minute just trip. And I'm not kidding. I think I still will get sort of those goosebumps when I hear it fall into the strings for the first time. Just because I remember being in the room and looking at one another and, just having that sort of that realization that it's coming together. I think that was a big aha moment for me.
Yeah. And it's, I think there's something about now forever, this record will be the record with that instrument on there. This will be the record with the strings. And I feel like it's really important, when we're 7 records deep, to have something to attach that record to, and it being an instrument that kind of can bring out a different emotion when you hear it than you're going to get from a bass guitar or something, So, and I think it's something that, isn't going to define our band forever, but for this record, it was an important factor.
Yeah, absolutely. I still remember when you guys were on the cover of the mag, and we had the live album going along with it. Of course, you performed to the one person, and I remember when we were teasing it out there, just playing that little clip of, like you say, the strings kicking in on Flowers, and people being like, "What is this? This is very interesting." It's a proper cool moment. That well, I mean, it does beg the question, like you say, that strings have defined this era. You guys thinking about what's going to define the next one? How are you approaching what's coming next? I guess you have some downtime. Has there been some writing taking place during that downtime?
Yeah.
You go for it.
We're pretty deep into what will be the 8th record. We decided, I guess, after a couple of months of being in lockdown, to quarantine as a band. So we rented out a house. It was odd because the house was about 10 minutes from my house.
Everybody's
from everybody's house. So it was like, oh, I can't go home, but I am home. So we locked ourselves away and started working on what's going to be the next record, and we're pretty much there. And yeah, I'm super excited about how it's going. I mean, John can touch on kind of what the direction is, or what the hook is on it. But
I mean, obviously it's not a sales pitch. It's just more or less, we didn't do a lot of talking. And again, I think just learning from You Are Okay, what I didn't enjoy was the overthinking of it, you know. And on this one, it was just important, really, really important for me and for our band to do what we felt like we wanted to do, not guessing what we think people wanted to hear. Not to say that we've done that in the past, but it was really imperative that we, I think I wrote that like one of the first days that I had stepped into the studio, and I felt like that was just like the driving factor. And oddly enough, given all the circumstance in the world, it's turning out really uplifting and very poppy. And I don't know if that'll turn people off, but you know, I felt like it was an odd place to be. Like I'm like mentally and in my headspace. It was, you know, it's been a trying time, but I felt like it was these songs were coming out just naturally, and I feel like this is an authentic space for the Maine to live in. I actually did some co-writing for the first time since Black and White. So I felt like opening myself up creatively to hearing different perspectives was really important. It hadn't been even a thought in my mind for so long because I was so salty from the experience the first time through. And I worked with a couple different people that I just really had a blast writing with. Andrew Goldstein, and ended up writing with Colby Wedgeworth, who's done a couple of our records. And I don't know, it was just really nice to feel like sort of pressure, you know, because nobody really knew that our band was going into this. So it's like if we didn't make something that we were proud of, we could just throw it in the trash and tell you that today we were going to start a new one, you know. So it's a really unique spot to be in, being close to finishing a record that nobody really knows about, except now that they do. As far as the timeline, who's to say? But I think what's really neat is that I'm already starting to work on what will be the first full length for my side project, John the Ghost, which is just, Pat was saying, it's a really special time for our band in that we've never experienced this long of a period of time at home. You know, we've never had the ability to sit and only think about music and songs, because, you know, all these other things, that the touring and releasing of records and stuff like that, it'll happen, you know, just to say when it's going to happen again. But the one thing that we actually can control right now is making music and the creative process. So I think, again, that's the silver lining in all of this too, is that our emphasis is solely on making music. And we already, even though we're close to finishing this record, we're already talking about doing another project with the Maine on top of the record and on top of John the Ghost. So I feel like it's just a special time for the output of our tunes. So
it's exciting to hear. No, that's really exciting to hear. You know, it's a difficult time, and I'm always happy to see when people have been able to use it creatively, because that's no mean feat. You know, everyone's in weird places mentally. Some bands are, you know, scattered across the whole country. It's delightful when, you know, there's people like yourselves who are in that fortunate position where you're in the right headspace, you're in a similar area and actually able to make this happen. And I guess, you know, you're implying it there, but really, how close are we to done? Is it properly finished? Are we very nearly there with this record?
I would say we're like 95% there.
I mean, that's pretty good.
Yeah,
that's pretty good.
And yeah, it's a thing where on this record we're really like picking apart every aspect of it. Like we didn't overthink the recording of it or you know or anything, where this is the first time that we've recorded without a producer like in the room the whole time. So it was, we worked with Colby Wedgeworth, who has done American Candy, Love the Lonely, Pioneer, and really he kind of has been like a sixth, member of our band for a long time. And technically probably has co-written some of our songs with us. It just kind of like wasn't ever done like in an official way. But so being able to work with him and then working with him over Zoom a bit to like pick out the record, and then going in and recording, and we just kind of went and did it, and it just came out so awesome. And I mean, and I think I'm allowed to have a bit of an outside perspective because, we're a band, but the core of the song comes from John, and the words come from him. And I go on the internet all day and talk about how I'm our biggest fan and whatever. So I think that there's something that there's just times where we're just like turned on, and I just feel like right now what's coming out of John is just at a whole other level than where we've been at before. And, to have a record like this, I'm just so proud and happy for people to hear it. It's insane. I mean, it's going to be awesome when the time comes, when we finish it and it's out. But I mean, I honestly wouldn't be surprised, and it'll probably end up working out that there'll be another project that comes out before this record. And we have all kinds of ideas of maybe working on something with some friends of ours. We're working on some cover songs, acoustic stuff. So I think that there's going to end up being tons of music out, and probably before the record itself. Because I think the eighth record is something that we want to make sure that everything about it is perfect. The timing of when it comes out, the songs, but before that, we're just in a groove. So we're just going to keep on going. So.
Mm-hmm. It's exciting stuff. Looking forward to hearing it whenever it should arise, but it sounds like there's plenty to come, which is very, very cool to hear. I'll leave you with this, gentlemen, because I guess the other good thing we've got to look forward to, we're all missing live music so much. Things like the live streams are going to be great, but can't wait to see you guys back on the road. So Sad Summerfest, let's look forward to that, shall we? Because again, what are your babies there? Absolutely brilliant project. Talk to me about next summer, what we can expect, and that great lineup you guys have put together for this one.
I mean, we're just floored that people wanted us to do it again, and then we convinced the bands that we did to be a part of it. I just think that we were obviously looking really forward to it this summer, but I think, like you're saying, the anticipation of just wanting to go to see live music, I think it'll make next summer feel that much sweeter. The lineup's insane. And for us to kind of sneak our name right in the mix there is pretty awesome. So it's not a sales pitch. I'm just really fortunate that we're able to do stuff like this, that people are just still receptive. And the first summer that we did it, it was so DIY, but so many people, we ended up having the fortunate opportunity to meet and work with so many people that we don't normally do on our normal tours. People that have been, professionally doing events like this for years and years and years, that helped make it just an insane atmosphere and such a special thing, that didn't feel like something that we'd done before. The camaraderie between the bands and everything like that was really high. So I'm looking forward to that, carrying that on and just giving people a fun environment to enjoy music outdoors again. So
yeah. And I think, one of the coolest things about Sad Summer is like, it's this weird balance of like, yeah, it is very like professional, and there's, 5,000, 8,000 people at certain shows, and it's this huge thing. But then if like people only knew that like an hour before the gates
we're
open,
running around
like the five of us with like super glue and like some cement and buckets to like hold down the decoration.
Fake palm trees and
we're taping stuff together, and it's like us and Mayday and like just like all the guys from the band just like
blowing up inflatable fucking things and like, and then putting them there, rushing and like, oh, didn't even eat breakfast. And yeah.
You've set up an expectation now. I want to walk in next summer. I want to see Gasgarth and Barakat with some inflatables. I want to see you boys with a couple of paintbrushes. I want to see the guys from Movements in the corner running a beer stand.
Exactly.
Yeah. No, I think it's gonna be awesome, and to be able to have new music for that tour, and then to have like All Time Low, they're on a crazy thing right now with their song, and so I think just like all the pieces are going to come together, and it's going to be just like the most fun summer ever, and we're just going to soak up every minute of it. So
yeah, really exciting. Something to look forward to there, man, with the return of live music. It's really, really going to be great next summer, and we can't wait for new music in there. And in the meantime, gents, to you and the rest of the guys, congratulations on this era again. Congratulations on this album. Have a great live streaming show, and we look forward to seeing you in the UK whenever that's allowed, but hopefully sooner rather than later.
Thank you, James. And before we go, we don't ever get to ask you how you're doing. So how the hell have you been all this
Very
time?
kind of you, John. Very kind. I'm all right, man. All right. I've said this to a few people on these. It's a really weird time, but it's great when we have technology like this, so I can continue to do my job from this very glamorous location you see behind me. But genuinely, it's not stopped, which is great. Like the amount of conversations we've been able to have, the amount of people who've been able to put out new music like yourself, means we've kept it all going, and that's a nice thing to be able to do and keep on going. So yeah,
well, keep doing them because we're watching them. Yeah,
good. I'm glad to hear it, man. Glad to hear it.
Hell yeah,
boys, absolute pleasure as always. Take care of yourselves. We'll speak to you soon. All right.
Awesome, man.
Great to see you.